Good morning and welcome to another XTIVIA Live Session, the Summer of Data, What is Different About 2019 Q&A, presented by Jim Orrison. My name is Alex Killian and I'm the video producer here on XTIVIA's marketing team. Before we dive into the live session with Jim this morning, I want to tell you just a little bit about our company. Since 1992, XTIVIA has established a proven reputation as a company that delivers leading-edge IT solutions and technology support for our clients' very specific requirements. Our service areas include mobile app development, BIDW, CRM, ERP, data management, web portal, digital experience design, and EIM services and solutions. And XTIVIA's success really stems from a demonstrated ability to deliver deep expertise via professional services. We try to empower our clients to leverage their chosen technology successfully, competitively, and profitably. And we have offices in Colorado, New York, New Jersey, Missouri, Texas, and Virginia. So a little bit of background on today's live session. The annual cadence of industry gatherings seems to have been adding many conferences within a data-centric theme. We have Enterprise Data Worlds, DGIQ, MDM and Data Governance Summits, Data Architecture, and of course, every major database platform vendor has their own conferences. And this increase of industry attention is really driven by demand. So today, we have XTIVIA's Director of EIM, Jim Orrison, with us. Jim has a passion for solving business problems first and foremost. For the last 20 years or so, his focus has been on understanding the underlying business problem, abstracting the issues and options, gaining consensus on solutions, and then delegating the execution to see teams celebrate the successes that can be achieved. Jim has solved countless unique problems that have helped organizational performance, customer satisfaction, and product quality. And today, Jim is going to answer some questions for us about those that are going on those conferences that are going on this summer. And he is regularly engaged with data industry thought leadership and where their analysis and experiences are pointing. So Jim, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you, Alex, and it's good to see you. I definitely want to do a little shout out to the U.S. national soccer team. So I've got my shirt on, wearing my colors proudly, because obviously the men have passed through Group D of the CONCACAF Gold Cup, going into the knockout rounds, and the women, of course, are fantastic this year and are moving themselves through the World Cup and meeting France tomorrow. And one thing else I just wanted to add in here that sort of underscores this is I recently joined in with the Harvard Business Analytics program, which is really a consolidation of about 60 people that they start each quarter. My group starts here in July, and our first business case that we're going to be studying through the business school and the School of Engineering on data analytics is on soccer, especially on how professional clubs in Europe are taking data on their players and evaluating them, not the way that baseball used to look at just hits, runs, and errors, but in terms of how teams and people, something as unique as a human being, interacts with others and try to determine their value to a club is amazing. And to me, that's sort of where potentially it's something that we love just watch as a sport. How is that actually being affected by this overall data, what I call revolution that we're being indulged with?
All right, very interesting. That's cool. So we're talking about the summer of data. What do you believe is the catalyst to the increased enthusiasm for this year's industry gatherings?
Well, a lot of people will say that these conferences are actually counterintuitive what's going on in the industry. People are doing more social media, more ways of connecting up. These are physical where people invest in going together. And why are they doing this? Short answer, digital transformations. Is that organizations are recognizing that digital transformation, the way that you interact with your customers, your suppliers, and your ecosystem is very different. But basically, the innovators are reaping the benefits of these things, which is really moving yourself away from away from systems and toward information. And they're trying to, companies who have waited on the sideline need to do a catch up. So therefore, I'm starting to see people who are coming to these events are folks who are trying to take the lessons learned and a little bit more talk to the experts so they can understand how to navigate maybe some steps they can avoid along the way So therefore, they can not be a casualty to this digital transformation initiative that's going on. And both business and IT leaders are looking for those type of thought leaders and the experiences of the lessons learned to go forward.
All right. So what are you gathering at these conferences as you're making presentations?
Well, I mean, the component here is that you can get a lot from them, but I'll try to narrow it down to a couple of points. One, best practices. Second, perspectives of business and data strategies. So best practices is really, actually, the word I should say is better practices. Because in essence, I know that as I look back in the early 90s, sitting in large conference rooms doing JAD sessions for a couple of weeks to determine the proper entity relationship model before you lay it down in an Oracle database system for a major platform, what we were doing 25 years ago was a best practice then. The thing is that the methodologies, our tools, and our mindsets have changed so that that type of effort is no longer a best practice. There is a better practice. So in listening to practitioners and what they do, people are trying to learn, what am I doing now? What should I maybe adjust to better utilize the assets, the people, and to get the results that we're looking for? And then the second piece around that business data strategy alignment, it's kind of funny, Alex, that most consultants are always going to tell you, you need to align your data strategy, your business strategy. Okay, great. The thing is, we've been saying that for 20 years, but yet if you have to keep iterating, it means that people either aren't listening or aren't successful doing it, one of the two. So in listening to this, I went to the DGIQ conference in San Diego 2 weeks ago. 3 cases I'd sort of throw out to you. Amica Insurance had a very methodical, organized approach that they have bought into a centralized strategy, and they're onboarding the disciplines as they saw fit. They weren't jumping way ahead. They weren't jumping down. They were being slow and steady, but they were dealing with a industry in insurance that data quality is really critical. So doing things in a methodical way was a reassurance to how to take care of it. The chief data officer from Standards & Poor's sort of brought up for him at his keynote expression that the executives made a decision, explicit decision 3-4 years ago, that they were a data company, not an analytical company. I'm talking about Standards & Poor's, the people who do ratings of investments on Wall Street. But what that really meant was that they were now going to move themselves to being where they source, they aggregated, they analyze, and they distributed information to the best value of their customer. Not to sell a product, but to make sure that they were aligned to their customer. And therefore, their business is transforming immensely, becoming platform-oriented versus service-oriented. And then the last one that was sort of inspirational was Nationwide Insurance. Scott Peachy, who is the head of their data governance, actually comes across as a marketing guy. I mean, basically, he was hip, he was intuitive, he was spot on. But to me, it actually said to me, to actually make changes in data is one of those areas that people are a little bit leery of and feel a little bit overwhelmed with. But if you put the right type of explanation and personality to it, people would be inspired to go to it. And again, these were best practices of how to align business and data strategy that I would call out. And to me, that's what I get up from going into these conferences.
Yeah, that sounds really valuable. Lots of interesting people to hear from. So speaking of people to hear from at these conferences, I understand XTIVIA is presenting at many of these events. Can you give us some insight on what the attendees to MDM and DG Summit will hear?
Yeah, next month in Chicago, Bill Marciel and I are going to be presenting a joint topic. This is one on data strategy in the HOV lane. So a little bit, you have to think about what's the advantage of the HOV lane. Well, when you get into rush hour traffic, it keeps moving. So the concept is, how do you basically how do you avoid the quick bureaucracy that tends to take on initiatives and help move them forward? As something as important as data strategy has to be nimble, because the expectation of the business is there. So part of what we were really trying to do is help people with the mindset adjustments. And we saw this, what I emphasize with Standards & Poor's, is that you're moving from a systems mindset to an informations mindset. So that's even one step beyond the data strategy, because you can have plenty of data, but your information is scarce. You need to know how to sort of move that. So part of our thesis and part of what we're going to do is examples about how you would move yourself from the paradigm that you may be currently in as an IT and a data strategy to where you need to be adjusting yourself to do that. And again, part of the challenge of being an HOV lane, you can't go there yourself. You need to have a passenger. And part of our thesis is that data governance is a fine passenger to make sure that you really navigate it correctly and you end up at the destination you sought out in the first place.
Awesome. Well, yeah, people should definitely come to hear that presentation.
Right.
So are there any other takeaways from past and future conferences that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, I mean, to a point, I've always been a voracious appetite for information. And my guidance to every professional is stay engaged. You cannot stay current. That's a word of wisdom I would give to anyone, is that you always are going to have to go to leapfrog. And part of the best way to leapfrog is to engage. And yes, the assets now on the World Wide Web are amazing. I mean, I can just basically stay completely plugged in out of my home office and do things, but by engaging and discussing with others, you really compare and contrast. And part of what you're doing is trying to figure out how do you add value back to your organization, because ultimately they're the ones championing you to be there. But to me, that's where I would be going back my final thoughts on this summer of data.
All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
For more information, you can check out Jim's last live session, which will be linked below, our XTIVIA blog, ebooks, and success stories on our website, xtivia.com. And we're available for conversations and questions around data governance or anything we've discussed today. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you've got questions. And lastly, don't forget these XTIVIA Live sessions are happening every fourth Thursday of the month. So make sure you tune in for the next one and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of these new resources. And thanks again so much, Jim.
Thank you, Alex. And
have a good Thursday, everybody.
I will, and enjoy the World Cup.
Yeah.